Hello and welcome. I know we don't have really any viewers now, but I think it's because nobody really knows about it. But here's what we want to do. So I have a couple things set up. So one of them being, or several of them actually, being that we have a GitHub, and the GitHub is going to have our lesson plan. Let me try to find it here. Lesson plan. Okay. And so we have our lesson plan. It's also in the description of the Twitch channel. I think I also have it in the YouTube channel. But now we're starting with lesson plan getting started. And so getting started is getting the IED. So to get the IED, or IDE, I'm so sorry, which is your integrated development environment. So to get our IDE, we're going to go to Google and we're going to type in Visual Studio. And so when we type in Visual Studio, we'll come to a selection of search results. The one we're interested in specifically is our top one here, visualstudio.microsoft.com, and you can click that. Once you get into here, you can select free Visual Studio up here at the top. And so we will select that as well. And that's going to let us download Visual Studio Community. Visual Studio Community does everything we need it to do. So let's go ahead and download that. When you do, it's going to ask you where do you want to install it, all this good stuff. Where do you want to download it? I already have it saved, and I've actually already installed all this. But so you go ahead and download this, save it, and then run it. And when you do, you're going to get it's going to install Visual Studio Installer. So I have this already installed, so I'll open it, and then you will see what the installer looks like, and I'll kind of walk you through the installer a little bit. Just going to wait for it to open. Here it is. So your installer, every time you open it, it's going to check for updates. When there are updates, you'll have to update it to move forward. My Visual Studio already has an update. So when you install your Visual Studio, you won't have the update. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go to Modify. And what this is going to let me do is show you the screen that you're going to have when you install. So when you go to install Visual Studio Community 2017, you're going to see this screen. I have a lot of things checked. You don't need to do all that. But what you definitely do need to do is scroll down to Mobile and Gaming and select Mobile Development with .NET. Give that a check mark. If you're interested in moving on to Unity later, you can install the Unity. That's to make games. But mobile development with .NET, definitely one thing we absolutely need. Another thing is this .NET Desktop development. And so that's going to let us write these console applications, which is for this beginner series. That's what we're going to be using, is the console applications to get you familiar with C#. So go ahead and check this as well. So we need .NET Desktop development, check, and mobile development with .NET, check. Once you have those checked, you can go ahead and install. I'm going to press close because I already have them installed. I'm not going to update Visual Studio, but I'm going to go into Git now. So while that's installing, that could be 10, 12, 14 gigabytes. I'm not really sure what that installation is by itself, but go ahead and get that started. And then we're also going to get it's called a Git client. And so Git is GIT. And so we'll type in GitHub and then press space. And for your Google search, do GitHub Desktop. So when we install GitHub Desktop, you can go ahead and click. And when you do it, you'll have this big button, download for Windows, and you'll go ahead and do that. Now you're probably going to need an account with GitHub, which is a great idea to set one up. It's free. And so what this is going to do is while we go through each course or each lesson, I'll push all the code that I write to this to GitHub, and then you'll be able to pull and work from there. So if you don't need the beginning lessons, or you want to just double check why your code might not be working, you can check it against mine. Or if you type some kind of bug that you just can't get over and I can't help you with, you can just start the next lesson with my code base. So go ahead and get GitHub, and in my description, I think I have my GitHub. Let me go to Twitch. I think I have my GitHub information in the description, and so go ahead and click that, and then you can clone the repository. So GitHub wants to install. That's great. That's what we want. And so yeah, it's going to ask you, do you want to sign in? I'm going to say skip this step. What is the
next step?
Oh no.
All right, next step is.
All right. So I'm going to say, oh man, flashing my stuff all over. Yeah, I'm going to close this actually. Anyway, so once you install GitHub, if we go to Twitch, I will go to my channel, make sure it's muted, and then down here in the contact section, there's this Teach Me Mobile GitHub. So if you click that, you'll be able to clone or download this repository. And so when you go to open in desktop, it'll try to open using GitHub Desktop, and that's what we're trying to install now. So once you install that, you can clone this into it, and then you'll be able to see all of my changes. So go ahead and get Visual Studio set up, get GitHub set up, and then let's see what else is a part of lesson 1. So, well, lesson 2 goes into our first program, so maybe that's where we will stop this. So just to review, if you go to Visual Studio, if you Google Visual Studio, you'll get to this visualstudio.microsoft.com. You can get the free Visual Studio IDE. You'll download it, install it. Make sure when you install it that you include those 2 checkboxes. The top one is the .NET Desktop Development check, and then your mobile development with .NET check. And so once you get all of that set up, then you can continue on to the next lesson. And so I'm going to wrap this one up now. I'm going to end the stream, and then I'm going to start another stream with lesson 2, and we'll get right into it. So look forward to seeing you next time, and thanks for tuning in. For anybody who tunes in the future, feel free to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.